हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यंकरवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं शङ्करं शङ्करानन्दं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Dhyana Shloka. मौनव्याख्या प्रकटित परब्रह्म तत्त्वं युवानं वर्षिष्ठान्तेव सदृशगणैः आवृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दरूपं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीढे वटविटपि समीपे भूमिभागे निषण्णं सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारात् त्रिभुवनगुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जननमरणदुःखच्छेददक्षं नमामि। चित्रं वटतरोर्मूले वृद्धा शिष्या गुरुर्युवा गुरोस्तु मौनं व्याख्यानं शिष्यास्तु छिन्न संशयाः निधये सर्वविद्यानां विषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। हरि ओम। We shall chant the first 3 verses. Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagare tulyam nijantargatam pashyannatmani mayaya bahirivot bhutam yatha nidraya yas sakshat kurute prabodha samaye स्वात्मानमेव स्वयं तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतम् मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकमसत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत्साक्षात्करणात् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। हरि ओम। हरि ओम। We are studying this most fascinating stotra by Bhagwan Shri Adi Shankaracharya ji, Shri Dakshinamurty Stotram. The main theme of this stotra is to make us understand our real nature, that I am Brahma. But what is that Brahma is first indicated through the world. So the stotra begins with the world only. Vishwam, Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari. So that Brahma alone, in that Brahma alone appears this world. Like in a mirror, the reflection appears. In the same way, in this Brahma, the world appears. Brahma is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Brahma is pure existence, pure knowledge, pure bliss. But the world which is appearing in Brahma has totally opposite nature. Just as when we look into the mirror, we see a mirror image of ourselves. When we raise our right hand, the mirror shows a left hand. So a different image itself is created in the mirror, but still it is my image alone. I don't say that there is some other person who is being seen in the mirror. It is myself. Though the whole image is totally flipped. In the same way, the whole world is an image of Brahma only. But it is a flipped image. Brahma is Satyam, and the world is seen as Asatyam. Brahma is Chit, that is knowledge, but the world is seen as inert, Jadam. Brahma is infinite, Anantam, but the world is seen as limited, as made up of parts, as having a lot of parts. So though the world is seen as having a different nature as that of Brahma, but still this world is Brahma. In that supreme Brahma, the world is actually not there. But in the world, that Brahma is present. World is like the karya, the effect. Brahma is the cause. In the effect, cause is present. But in the cause, there is no effect. Then only we say it is a cause. So the world is asatyam and Brahma has got no asatyam in it. Means there is nothing that changes in that Brahma. Therefore it is absolute satyam. World is seen as jadam, inert. But that Brahma is jnanam. World is seen as limited. That limitation is not in that Brahma. So it is anantam. So first the stotra presents the nature of that Brahma, indicates that Brahma through this world, and then it says that you are that Brahma. Sakshat tattvamasiti veda vachasa yogodhayatyashritan. You are Brahma. That I who am experiencing this world, I who consider myself as the doer, knower, enjoyer, am actually that Brahma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. To consider myself knower, doer, enjoyer is a misunderstanding. Just like we have misunderstanding about the world. Ignorant person, when he looks at this world, considers the world as devoid of Brahma. He doesn't see the presence of that Brahma in this world, doesn't know the presence of Brahma in this world. In the same way, when we look at ourselves, we don't see the presence of Brahma in ourselves. Instead of that, we consider ourselves as a limited being born and who will die, who is the knower, doer, enjoyer. So the teacher, after making me understand that Brahma with the help of this world, through cause and effect relationship, that Brahma is indicated. And then the teacher tells that you are that Brahma, Tattvamasi. And this Tattvamasi also has to be understood. It is pointed out to that I, who is different from all that is seen, that which is experienced as this world. I, who is different from the body, the mind, I, who is different from the senses, that I am Brahma. That I is indicated as the innermost I, the innermost self. It's called Pratyak Atma. Separate from all the equipment, separate from all the conditionings. That is experienced completely, properly in our deep sleep. We get separated from the body, from the mind, from the senses. We remain as we are in deep sleep, and that is what we really are. But that has to be recognized, that has to be comprehended, and one has to gain the direct realization of that Atma. So the teacher points out that Atma as Brahma, and one who gains that Sakshatkar, means direct experience of that Atma as Brahma, Sakshatkaranat bhavenna punaravrittir bhavambho nidau. Such a person is not born again in this world. See, we experience our birth because the body is born and the mind, intellect and all is experienced within in this body. So we experience this as though it is, we consider this as our birth because we cannot separate ourselves from this body. So when the body is born, I say I am born. When body becomes old, I say I have become old. When the body dies, I say I am dying. But I am really separate from the body. Not only I am separate from the body, I am separate from the mind, from the intellect also. So that I has to be recognized, that I has to be experienced directly. That is called Sakshatkar. It's called Aparoksha Anubhuti. It is the experience without any media, immediate experience of the self. And once we gain that experience, then that false notion itself gets destroyed. The false notion that I am a body, I am a limited being gets destroyed. And when that gets destroyed, the Sukshma Sharir becomes defunct. The Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar are no longer useful for me. So when the prarabdha of this body gets over, when this body gets dropped, physical body gets dropped, the Sukshma Sharir also gets disintegrated. And that person is not born again. There is no more birth for me. Because the birth happens when the Sukshma Sharir is present. So the Sukshma Sharir go from one body to another body. The Sukshma Sharir, which has got 19 parts, the Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Pranas, Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankar. This Sukshma Sharir go from one body to another body when a person dies. But when we gain that enlightenment, this Sukshma Sharir gets disintegrated. Just like our physical body gets disintegrated when we die, it merges with the 5 elements. Similarly, when a person gains enlightenment, then his Sukshma Sharir, once the body's Sthula Sharir gets dropped, the Sukshma Sharir also gets disintegrated, it becomes one with the totality. So the person is no more there, is not born again. An enlightened person is Brahma only. There is no difference between a person knower of Brahma and Brahma. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. So he is not born again. So it is very important that we have to gain that self-knowledge. In the beginning, we gain that self-knowledge with the help of our buddhi. But that is just a theoretical understanding, conviction of our own self. The experience happens when we transcend even the buddhi. Otherwise, that knowledge is just at a level of our buddhi only. So how exactly knowledge happens? How knowledge takes place? When we are living in this world, identified with our body, our mind, our senses, what is the mechanism of knowledge? How knowledge takes place? See, our body is made up of inert matter. Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Prithvi. These 5 elements, they don't have the capacity to know. And from these 5 elements alone is born the 5 organs of actions and perception. They also do not have the capacity to know or to function. Our Antakarana is also born from Prakriti only, from Mahat Tattva, from Ahankar Tattva. That also is inert, doesn't have the capacity to know. So how knowing takes place? How do we know? What is the meaning of knowing? Who is this knower? So after analyzing the world and through the world, the teacher has pointed out that Brahma. Now the teacher is shifting the attention to the knower, and through the knower that Brahma will be pointed out. Through the world, the Brahma is pointed out, and through the knower also the Brahma is pointed out. Because the knower as well as the known are the expressions of Brahma. Just as in our dream. In my dream, the dream world, as well as I, the dreamer, are the expressions of my mind only. Mind only creates the dream world, and mind only becomes the experiencer of the dream world. The dream world and the dream experiencer is happening in me. When I wake up, they both merge into me. In the same way, in that Supreme Brahma, this world has come into existence. And in this Supreme Brahma alone, by the power of that Brahma called Maya, the knower of this world is also born. I, the knower of this world, is also born. So what is the reality behind me? Why do I call myself the knower? Exactly how knowing happens, how knowledge takes place. That is being analyzed very beautifully in the following shloka. So let us chant shloka number 4. नानाच्छिद्रघटोदरस्थितमः दीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरणद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनुभाति तत्समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये. Once more. नानाचित्रघटोदरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरणद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनुभाति तत्समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये. तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये. नानाछिद्रकटोदरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरम्. Shankaracharya ji gives a metaphor here to teach us how that knowledge happens through our senses, through our mind. Though they are inert, knowledge takes place. So magical it is. Absolutely like a magic show. This body, which is made up of the 5 elements, made up of matter, when a person is just lying down asleep, he doesn't see, doesn't hear, doesn't taste, doesn't smell. Then suddenly he wakes up, opens his eyes, and is able to see, is able to hear, is able to smell, is able to taste, is able to touch. He gets all this information, he gets all this knowledge of all this stimuli. So it's like a magic show. So how exactly this happens? How does the inert senses and inert mind, intellect get this ability to know? So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji says that there is a knowledge, source of knowledge is there within us, which alone expresses through all these senses, the mind, etc. And then this experience of knowing happens. He gives an example of a pot. Just imagine a pot with lot of holes. A pot opaque pot with holes, and inside that pot, just imagine a lamp is kept burning bright. So when you place that pot in a dark place also, you will find that the light starts coming out of all the openings. The light comes out of all the openings. You just see a pot with a lot of openings, but all the openings becomes bright, illumined. In America and all, they celebrate this Halloween. On that day, they bring a huge pumpkin and scoop all the inside thing of that pumpkin out and make some face or some holes in that pumpkin and place a lamp within. So from a distance, when you look at it, you see the light coming out of all the holes. They make eyes and you see the light coming out of those eyes. They make a mouth and you see the light coming out of the mouth. They make ears and you see the light coming out of the ears. But the pumpkin doesn't have any light. Pumpkin is just a pumpkin with lot of holes. A holy pumpkin doesn't have any light. But still it looks very bright, brilliant, shining. So from where this light has come? That light belongs to that lamp which is kept within, which just pours out its light through all these holes. So nana chidra ghatodara stitamaha, ghata udara, in the stomach of that pot is placed a Mahadipa Prabha, a very large lamp, shining, bright, Bhaswaram. So when you see all these lights coming out, in the same way, this body, our own body, is like a pumpkin only. Some bodies actually look like a pumpkin. Nice, round. And then we have so many senses. All those senses are like holes. These eyes are there, they are like two holes. Ears are there, again two holes. Nose is there, two nostrils, two holes. Mouth, a big hole. Then we have all these holes. Through these holes, knowledge happens. Even our whole skin, so many pores are there. All of them are very sensitive to touch. So through this hole, that seeing takes place. Some magic happens when this hole is open, that one gains the experience of colors and forms. Through this hole, we gain the experience of sound. Through this hole, we gain the experience of smell, fragrance, odor. Through this hole, we gain the experience of taste. Through the skin, we gain the experience of touch. Magically, we gain this knowledge of this Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. I see, I know, I can hear, I can smell, I taste. Not only I gain the knowledge of the five objects, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, but I also gain the knowledge of space and time. Space is not something which we can see with our senses. Time is not something we can see with our senses. Time and space are experienced with the help of our mind only directly. Mind only senses space and senses time and senses direction also. So through the mind also we gain knowledge. Means through the antakarana. Through our buddhis, there are certain things which we don't comprehend immediately, but we use our buddhi. And with the help of our buddhi also we gain knowledge. Not only we gain knowledge, but we also store that knowledge. We have the capacity to store the knowledge. That is very interesting. If we didn't have this capacity, then every day we would have woken up fresh. But we remember our yesterday, we remember our past, we remember all the experiences we had, and not only we have memories, but we have also some scars which we carry from our past lives also. We may not remember exactly worshipping some devata in our past life, but we have the samskar because of which we develop that love for God. Like Sant Naneshwar Maharaj says that Bahuta Sukrutansi Zodi Manuni Vitthali Avadi. That I have lot of punya karma of my past life, therefore I have love for Vithala Bhagwan. So we carry our samskars from our past, which are also stored. Then there is the sense of I, which is there, which is experience. I experience myself. I am seeing, I am hearing, I am feeling, I am thinking. So this is experienced through our mind, through our intellect, through our ahankar, through our chitta. They are all like holes only. They are all inert. Not only our senses are inert, our mind, intellect are also inert. They are also made up of matter. Prakriti, from that Prakriti only, from Jada Prakriti, from Apara Prakriti only, all this material world and material senses, material mind, intellect, and all are created. They are all inert, means they are all known. They are not independent. They depend on someone. So, how does all this have this capacity to know? How knowing happens? So here Shankaracharya ji says that just like in a pot, that a lamp is there, luminous lamp is there. In the same way, in this pot of our body, with all these holes of the senses, Pancha Jnanendriyas and Antakaran Chatushtaya, the four Antakaran, Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankar, through them I gain knowledge. They are like holes. So these 9 holes are there, through them I gain knowledge. But they are inert. So it is actually, there is a lamp inside. And what is that? That is Jnanam. Jnanam yasya tu chakshuradikarana dwara bahispandate. The Jnanam, that is the nature of that Atma, Shuddha Atma, which is that Brahma, which is Jnanam. That Brahma is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Satyam means existence. Jnanam means knowledge. Anantam means infinite. And it is not three, though there are 3 adjectives, but they all indicate one only. So that which is Satyam itself is Jnanam. That which is Jnanam itself is Anantam. They are not 3. They are same. They are different facets. Jnanam is not different from Satyam. And Jnanam is not different from Anandam or Anantam. So that Jnanam Atma alone as though expresses, as though comes out through these openings of Mana Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar, and the Pancha Jnanendriyas, like the light coming out of the holes in a pumpkin. So jnanam yasya tu chakshuradikarana dwara bahispandate. It comes out. Bahispandate. See that light is there, chit. See, many times people translate that chit or jnanam as consciousness. But this word consciousness is very, very confusing and very misleading. The word consciousness is very misleading because many understand the meaning of that word consciousness as Chetana only. See, when we are awake, our mind, we say our mind is conscious. We are conscious. That is just a functioning of the mind, the intellect. Therefore, there is in English, the term is there that a person is conscious, he becomes unconscious, he is subconscious. So when we are awake, we call ourselves, we are conscious. In the dream, we are less conscious. And in deep sleep, we are unconscious. So this word consciousness is really associated with the functioning of the mind, functioning of the intellect, which is called Chetana in Sanskrit, which is the function of the mind, of the Antakarana. In Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, Bhagwan talks about it very vividly. He elaborately enumerates the kshetra, Mahabhutanya buddhiravyaktamevacha, Indriyani dashaikancha, Panchachendriya gocharaha, Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghatas chetanadhritihi. So the 24 tattvas Bhagwan mentions as kshetra, but apart from that he also mentioned Ichha, desires, Ichha dvesha, dislike, Ichha dvesha sukham, happiness, dukkham, sorrow, means pleasure and pain, which are also expressions of the mind, the intellect. And sanghataha, all the body and other conglomerate. And Chetana. Chetana is that expression of the mind, the intellect when it is awake. It gets the ability to feel, to think, to understand. That is the Chetana. Just like the sun is there shining bright in the sky, and when the sun is reflected in the waters also appears bright. That brilliance which is there in the water, though it is because of the sun, but it is of that water only. The water appears bright. In the presence of that sun, the water appears bright. But that water itself is not the sun. The reflection is not the sun. Similarly, in the presence of that Atma, the mind, intellect becomes bright and get the ability to know. They become as though conscious. So that consciousness which is experienced in the mind, in the intellect, is called Chetana. It is not Chaitanya. It is not Chit. It is not Jnanam. Sometimes people use the term pure consciousness. Even pure consciousness is also expression of the mind only. It is not the chit. Just like the body. Body is different from me. Even a pure body is different from me. Similarly, mind is different from me. Even a pure mind is different from me. In the pure mind, the brilliance of that consciousness is more, but still it is different from me. Therefore, one should be very careful about using such terms as consciousness, etc. So the term used in our Sanskrit is jnanam, or another term used is chit. So jnanam yasya tu chakshuradikarana-dvara bahispandate. It is that jnanam, presence of that jnanam swarup of that Atma alone. When it is present in the buddhi gains the ability to know. When it is in the mind gets the ability to know. When that mind gets connected to our senses, the senses get the ability to know. When the senses are connected to the body appears to be alive. Body appears alive because of the connection of the senses and the pranas with the body. When the senses get withdrawn in the mind, then there is no ability in them to see, hear, taste, touch. When a person is asleep, the eyes are closed, you open the eyes of that person. Though the eyes appears to be open, the person cannot see anything because it is not connected to the mind. And mind has got the ability to feel, to think, because it is connected to the buddhi. Buddhi has got ability to think and understand because it is connected to the Atma. See, it is just like the light. In electricity, we have let us say we have this lamp. It is on, it is off. So when it is on, means it is connected to the electricity, then it expresses as light. When it is off, it doesn't express as light. So expressing as light or not as light is the expression of this bulb in the presence of the electricity. Electricity is like that chit, is like jnanam. And this bulb is like the intellect or the senses. Because of the presence of this chit, it appears to be luminous. Now see, very interesting. Now we say the what you call bulb is off. Now it is on. So we can use the term on and off for the bulb. But when it comes to electricity, there is electricity, we cannot use the term on and off for it. It is always there. You cannot say it is on, it is off. Now see, this is very interesting. When we are awake, our mind, intellect is on. And we gain the knowledge of this world through our senses, the information comes to the intellect, we gain that knowledge. We say, I know. Sometimes the information doesn't come to our senses. They don't reach the buddhi, so I say, I don't know. So knowing and not knowing is the function of the intellect. Knowing and not knowing is the function of the intellect. When we go to sleep, the intellect is switched off. In deep sleep state, intellect is switched off. Now see, very important. In deep sleep state, the activity of knowing and not knowing doesn't happen. In deep sleep, I neither know anything, nor do I not know. In deep sleep, the activity of knowing or not knowing is not taking place because the intellect is switched off. In the waking, the activity of knowing, not knowing, I say I know. Sometimes I say I don't know. So to know something or not to know something is the function of the buddhi, not of the Atma. Atma is Jnana Swarupa. In the presence of that Atma only, the intellect gets the ability to know. Intellect gets the ability to understand, to know. That knowledge happens. So in deep sleep, what happens? The intellect is switched off, but the electricity is there. In deep sleep, jnanam is there, but the activity of knowing is not happening. The activity of knowing as well as not knowing is not happening. So in deep sleep, I neither know anything nor do I not know. It's very important to know. In deep sleep, there is neither knowledge happens nor absence of knowledge happens. Many people, many Vedanta teachers, they talk about deep sleep as though we know void or we know absence, we know blankness. Many times they say that in the waking I know this world, in the dream I know the mental world, and in deep sleep I know blankness. That is a wrong statement. Such statements they give because of the identification with the intellect. Intellect has got the function of knowing and not knowing. When we wake up from our deep sleep, again we identify with the intellect, and through the language of intellect we say, oh, I did not know anything in deep sleep. But in deep sleep I was present as jnanam. That is the very beautiful, subtle nature of that Atma as jnanam, which is always present. See, when we are in deep sleep, just before going to deep sleep, our mind and intellect is switched off. When it is on, we experience the dream, or when we are, even the senses are functioning, we experience the waking. Then our senses get withdrawn, but the mind is still on, so we experience the dream. Then the mind is switched off. And who is switching off our mind? Ishvara. Ishvara switches off our mind. and Ishvara switches it on. Ishvara is the one who controls our deep sleep. Ishvara is the one who is the master of our deep sleep. Hiranyagarbha is the master of our dream. Vaishvanara is the master of our waking. So that jnanam is not a function of the buddhi we are talking about. That jnanam is the very nature of that Atma. Therefore, Atma is also indicated as Sarvajna, Sarvavita, as all-knowing, because whatever is known anywhere by anyone is because of the presence of that Atma alone. Therefore, Atma is indicated as all-knowing. So, Sarvajna, Sarvavita. So that jnanam, when it is present in our intellect, the intellect becomes conscious. It becomes sachet. It gets the ability to know. So whatever is presented in front of that intellect, whatever is presented as thoughts in that intellect, we come to know it. Knowledge happens. When this Atma is connected, or presence of Atma in the mind makes that mind experience emotions. Presence of Atma in the Chitta makes the Chitta experience memory. Presence of Atma in Ahankar makes the Ahankar experience the self, means the ego, I am. So all these are just the equipments, just like electricity, when it is expressed through the bulb, it expresses light. But the same electricity expressing through a heater expresses as heat. Through a cooler, it expresses as coolness. Through a radio, it expresses as sound. Electricity is same, but the sound, heat, light belongs to the equipment. They are not the nature of the electricity. Similarly, knowing and not knowing is the activity of the intellect. That is not the activity of the Atma. Therefore, the Atma, in me, there is no activity of knowing. Identified with the buddhi, I say I am the knower. Identified with the senses, I say I am the seer, I am the hearer, I am the one who is tasting. Identified with the mind, I say I am the one who is feeling. So this jnanam alone expresses through the mind, the intellect, the senses, and there is this ability to know, to perceive, etc. happens. So jnanam yasya tu chakshuradi karana dwara bahispandate janami, then that experience happens. Janami, I know. But it is all because of the presence of that Atma, which is Jnana Swarupa, which is pure knowledge. Not consciousness. Consciousness, you don't use that word, not good. Consciousness is something, expression of the mind only. And when we have misunderstanding about certain concepts, certain teachings, then our sadhana and everything goes in the wrong direction only. Many people, they meditate on this Chetana only, thinking that they are meditating on the self. Many people meditate on the ahankar, thinking that they are meditating on the Shuddha Atma. Many people discard this world, not knowing that this world is expression of Brahma. Many people curse and use bad words towards Maya, not knowing that Maya is the very dear power of Ishvara. Many people don't understand the effect, the definition of avidya and the effect of avidya. So all this we have to understand properly. More about this we will see. We will continue with this shloka in our next class also. Little bit more we have to contemplate. So more about this we will see in our class on Wednesday. So till then you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana, and listen to the pravachan again. Because what I am expressing is different from what you might have heard before or what many other teachers might be saying. Even different from what I myself used to say many years ago. So you should listen to it carefully and understand properly. Okay? So we will meet again on Wednesday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Boli Syav Ramachandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.